In 1807, the British Empire made a historic announcement. A law was passed, celebrations followed, church bells rang. Britain had officially abolished the transatlantic slave trade. History books would later call it a moral victory, a turning point, proof that an empire built on exploitation had finally found its conscience. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The slave trade did not stop. It did not even slow down. In many places, it became more violent, more secretive, and more profitable. Because when Britain banned the slave trade, it did not abandon the system. It simply learned how to hide it. This is the story of what really happened after 1807, the story behind the law, and the global hypocrisy that followed. By the late 18th century, Britain ruled the Atlantic. Its ships dominated the oceans. Its banks financed global trade. Its ports overflowed with wealth. Liverpool, Bristol, London. Much of that wealth came from one source: human beings. For more than a century, British slave ships transported millions of Africans across the Atlantic, packed into dark holds, chained, starved, branded. The system was brutally efficient. Manufactured goods left Britain. Enslaved Africans were shipped to the Americas. Sugar, cotton, tobacco, and profit flowed back. Slavery was not a side business. It was the foundation. Banks insured slave ships. Politicians owned plantations. Churches accepted donations earned from human suffering. The entire economy was connected. So why did Britain ban the slave trade at all? The answer was not simple. By the late 1700s, abolitionist movements were growing. Petitions flooded Parliament. Former slaves began telling their stories. Public opinion started to shift. But morality alone does not change empires. Economics were changing too. The Industrial Revolution was transforming Britain. Factories needed wage laborers at home. Colonial slavery was becoming less efficient. Ending the slave trade was no longer unthinkable. In 1807, Parliament passed the Slave Trade Act. The trade was illegal, but slavery itself was not. That would take another 26 years. On paper, the law was clear. At sea, the story was very different. Slave ships did not disappear. They changed flags. They altered routes. They bribed officials. British merchants quietly partnered with foreign traders. Portuguese, Spanish, Brazilian. Ships were sold, renamed, re-registered. A British-built ship could leave Liverpool, change its identity, and continue trafficking humans. Everyone knew, and many benefited. To enforce the ban, Britain created the West Africa Squadron. Royal Navy ships were sent to patrol the coast. On the surface, it looked heroic. Warships intercepting slave vessels, officers freeing captives, chains being removed. But the reality was darker. The squadron was underfunded, understaffed, and carefully limited. Britain did not want to disrupt its trade partners too aggressively. Stopping slavery was important. Maintaining global power was more important. Even when ships were captured, freedom was incomplete. Freed Africans were often forced into so-called apprenticeships. Many were sent back to plantations. Mortality rates remained devastating. The chains were gone. Control was not. Here is what history rarely emphasizes. British money never left slavery. After 1807, British banks still financed slave economies. British insurance firms protected slave cargo. British factories processed slave-grown cotton. Publicly, the empire condemned the trade. Privately, it continued to profit. Slavery did not disappear. It was outsourced. As Britain stepped back, others stepped in. The United States expanded slavery westward. Brazil became the largest importer of enslaved Africans. Cuba's sugar plantations exploded in scale. Ironically, the ban helped concentrate slavery elsewhere. The Atlantic did not become cleaner. It became quieter. Lost in laws and politics were the people. Men torn from their families. Women sold as property. Children born into chains. For them, 1807 meant nothing. The ships still came. The whips still cracked. The plantations still demanded blood and sweat. A legal victory in London did not translate to freedom in Africa or the Americas. Britain likes to remember 1807 as a moral awakening, a moment when an empire chose justice over profit. The truth is harder. The slave trade did not end because it was wrong. It ended because it evolved, because power learned how to look ethical while staying profitable. History is not just about the laws that are passed. It is about the systems that survive. And in 1807, slavery survived, just under a different name. The British Empire did not end the slave trade. It perfected the art of banning injustice while still benefiting from it. And that lesson still echoes today.